On the night of September 12th, Walls, England, the police got a call saying that smoke was coming out of a house where a man and woman lived together. What scared everyone was that the smoke smelled strongly and terribly, like a burning human body. Surprised and worried by this, the police quickly went to the couple's house, but they didn't see anything strange, so they left the next day. The police got more calls from the neighbors, just like before smoke was coming from the same house. And again, it smelled like a burning human body, and this time when the police went back, they found something so shocking it was hard to believe their eyes inside. His furnace, a human body, was slowly being burned, but the big questions were whose body was that and who was burning it. At first, this case seemed simple, but trust me, it was full of surprises and twists you won't believe. So stay with me till the very end. It all began on March 28, 2013. A 24-year-old woman named Varka Rani from Punjab and a 29-year-old man named Jasveer, who was also from Punjab but lived in England, got married in a big and happy ceremony. Their parents agreed to the marriage, and about 700 people came to the wedding. Jasveer worked at the Royal Bank of Scotland in England. He had come to India for a short leave, just for the wedding soon after they got married. Jasveer received an order from his office who had to return to work, but Varka didn't yet have a visa to go to England, so Jasveer had no choice but to leave her in India and return to his job while he was away. Varka applied for her visa and waited with great hope and excitement, just like she wished her visa was approved. 5 months later, on August 10th in 2013, Varka finally flew to England. After she arrived, Jasveer took her to famous tourist places and treated her with love and care. Everything looked perfect on the outside, but everything changed on September 12th that night. Jasveer went to the police and said his wife Varka was missing. This raised a serious question. What really happened to Varka, the young woman who came to England dreaming of a happy married life? Jasveer then called both his parents and Var's parents. He told them everything, and it sounded very sad. He said he didn't know where she had gone, and the families tried to calm him down, saying maybe she just stepped out and would return soon around 11 p.m. That same night, something strange happened. Jasper's neighbors noticed a strange smell in the air. It was the smell of something burning, and it strongly reminded them of a dead body. But at first, they didn't think much of it. Near their homes, there was a crematorium where dead bodies were often burned, so they thought it was just another body being cremated. They ignored it and carried on like usual, but the smell didn't go away. In fact, it got worse, and then came the shock. They found out that no dead bodies were burned at the crematorium that night, not even one. Now the neighbors were confused if the crematorium hadn't burned anything. Where was that horrible smell coming from? It wasn't just strange, it was making people feel sick and uneasy, wanting to find the source. The neighbors stepped outside and began to check around. That's when they followed the smell and realized something terrifying. It was coming from Jaser's house. Worried, they knocked on his door and asked, "What are you burning at this hour?" They told him clearly, "This smell is not normal, it's something very different and very disturbing." Jasveer replied that he had cleaned his garden that day, so he was just burning the leftover waste, and the smell was coming from that. But since the neighbors lived near a crematorium, they could easily tell the difference between the smell of burning garbage and the smell of a burning dead body. They were sure it was the second one. The smell of a dead body being burned. Still, they didn't question him anymore that night. Everyone quietly went back into their homes and tried to sleep. But the next morning on September 13th around 6 a.m., the same horrible smell returned, this time much stronger than before. It filled the air, and it was so bad that people couldn't even breathe properly. The neighbors didn't know exactly what was going on, but they felt something was definitely wrong. So without wasting time, they called the police and reported the strange smell. Within minutes, the police arrived at Jasir's house. They told him about the complaint and asked him what he was burning. Jasir gave the same answer he had given the neighbors, that he was just burning garden waste, but the police weren't satisfied. They asked if they could see it for themselves. Jasveer told them there was nothing to see, and it was only waste. But the police insisted. They said they needed to check and make sure it really was just garbage. Just like he said, the trash was burning in the garden. When the police reached there, they saw an incinerator, a machine used to burn the garbage. Thick smoke was coming out of it. A lady police officer slowly walked up and opened the lid to see what was inside, but the moment she looked in, she froze. Her eyes widened in shock. There was no wood, no usual waste. What she saw was something terrifying, a fully burned human skeleton. It looked just like someone sleeping in a ball on a cold night. As soon as the officers saw it, they didn't wait. They arrested Jasper on the spot. The forensic team was called right away. They came quickly and carefully pulled the remains out of the incinerator. The body was so badly burned that only bones were left. Because of that, they couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, but then they found something important inside the incinerator. A clue while removing the bones. The team also found a gold bracelet and a gold ring. It didn't take long to realize the truth. Those items belonged to Jasvir's missing wife Varka. With that discovery, the police began questioning Jasvir without wasting a single second during the police questioning. Yazir finally broke down. He admitted that he had killed Varka, and then he slowly explained the real reason behind what he did. He said that after their wedding, Varka came with him to England. In the beginning, everything seemed perfect. They visited many places together and started living a happy life. At least that's what he thought. But things changed one day. Jasvir came to know something that completely shocked him. Var told him the truth about why she had really married him. Var was someone who wanted to live her life freely without anyone telling her what to do. But back in India with her strict parents, she never got that freedom. So while looking for a way out, she met Jasvir through a marriage website. When she found out that he lived and worked in England, she made a plan. She only married me, Jasir said, because she wanted to come to England and live freely. Var told him to his face, "I didn't marry you for love, I just wanted to come here now that I'm in England. I don't need you anymore. I want a divorce." Jasper was shocked. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He refused to give her a divorce. But from that moment, they started fighting more and more every day. On the morning of September 12, 2013, they had another big fight about the same thing. Var again said she wanted a divorce. Jasir again said no. But this time things got worse. Their argument turned into shouting. Then Varka got so angry she started hitting Josie. Jasvir said he lost control in the heat of the moment. He grabbed a pipe from the vacuum cleaner, and without thinking wrapped it around her neck. He pulled tightly, too tightly, she stopped moving. She was dead. Javir sat quietly for a moment during the questioning. Then he slowly said, "I didn't plan to kill her, but once it happened, I got scared." He told the police that he believed no one would arrest him unless the truth came out, so he made a terrible decision to hide the murder. His first thought was to get rid of Varka's body without anyone knowing. He didn't want anyone to suspect a thing. He sat and thought about what to do. That's when he remembered the incinerator in the garden. He made a plan. If he placed her body inside and burned it with garbage and wood, no one would ever find out, but he knew he couldn't do it. During the day, the strong smell of burning might reach the neighbors and someone could call the police. So he waited. He stayed calm and acted normal. That night, after everyone in the neighborhood had gone to sleep, he quietly took her body to the incinerator. Before doing that, he even went to the nearby police station and filed a missing person report, pretending like he had no idea where Varka had gone. He wanted to make it look like she had left home on her own. Later that night, just like he planned, he put her body into the incinerator, added some wood, and burned everything. The officers listened carefully. These were experienced police. They had seen many cases, but something didn't feel right. Even though Josir had confessed, the police noticed some parts of his story didn't match. It felt like he was mixing truth with lies, so they decided to dig deeper. They started asking around in the neighborhood, talking to people who knew Varka. What they heard was very different from Jasper's story. Neighbors said Varka was such a kind girl, so she just moved here but became close to all of us very quickly. She always spoke nicely about Jasper. She looked happy. She cared for him so much. We saw it ourselves. The police found it hard to believe that a girl who was only using her husband to come to England would show so much love and care for him. This made the officers suspicious. Something about Jalzer's stories didn't add up. The police were now almost certain Varka couldn't have done the things Javir accused her of. Then the police remembered that the forensic team had collected an iPad from Jasvir's house. They decided to check it for any clues. At the same time they spoke to Jasvir's old friends during these conversations. They found out something very strange, something completely different from what Jasir had confessed it was a truth. About his past, with both the iPad and the statements from his friends in front of them, the police realized one thing. Yazir's reason for killing Varka didn't make sense. It didn't feel real. Something important was missing. The officers could sense that he was hiding the actual reason, so they changed their way of questioning. This time they were more direct, more serious. They pushed harder. Jasvir tried to stay calm, but the pressure got to him slowly. His face changed. He looked down, took a deep breath, and then quietly said, "I didn't tell the full truth. It didn't start that day. It started years ago." And that's when he told them the real story. The story that began 15 years earlier. Jasvir was just 14 years old. Then, like all teenage boys, his school friends had started noticing girls talking about crushes and joking around. But Jaser didn't feel the same. He wasn't interested in girls at all. At first, he didn't think much of it. He believed those feelings would come with time, but they didn't even... After he crossed his teenage years, those feelings never came. That's when he finally realized something that was hard to accept. He was gay. He was filled with fear. He had grown up in a place where being gay wasn't accepted. He didn't know what his parents would think, or how society would treat him. So he decided to keep it a secret. He acted normal on the outside, but struggled inside every day. Even though he hid his truth, his feelings didn't disappear. He was still attracted to men, but since same-gender love wasn't accepted in his culture, he couldn't speak to anyone about it. Then he found hope. He learned that in foreign countries like England, gay people could live freely and openly. That gave him a new dream to go abroad and live as his true self. He worked hard, finished his studies, and finally got a job in England. He moved there, and for the first time in his life felt free in England. Jaser joined a gay club, met others like him, and even started a relationship with another man. Life felt happy and peaceful. He was finally living the life he had always wanted. But then pressure started coming from back home. His parents in India began talking about marriage. They had no idea about his real identity. Jaser tried to refuse again and again, but they wouldn't stop. After some time, he couldn't take the pressure anymore. He felt trapped, afraid to tell his truth, and tired of pretending. So he finally gave in and agreed to marry a woman. Yasir returned to India, even though he didn't really want to. He had no interest in marrying a woman. But when he met Varka, something about her made him feel comfortable. So despite everything, he agreed to marry her from the outside. Their life looked perfect. People thought they were a happy couple, enjoying their new life in a new country. But the truth was very different. Even though Jasvir married Varka, he had no physical attraction toward her. At first, Varka didn't think much about it. She thought maybe he was shy or maybe things would take time, but even after weeks and months passed, there was still no closeness between them. That's when she began to worry. She tried talking to him about it, asking gently what was wrong. But every time she brought up the topic, Jasper would quickly change the subject or walk away. Then on September 12th, something unexpected happened by accident. Varka saw Jasvir's iPad. She picked it up, and while checking it, she came across something shocking, a video of Jasper being intimate with another man. Her heart dropped, and in that moment, she realized the truth. Her husband was gay when she asked him directly. He didn't deny it. He quietly admitted it. Varg was furious. "You've ruined my life!" she shouted. She told him that she wanted a divorce immediately, and that she would tell both of their families the truth. Jaser said he was willing to give her a divorce, but there was one thing: he was terribly afraid of what people would say if his secret came out. If the world knew he was gay, he feared that everyone would look down on him, that he would lose all respect in society. He begged Var not to tell anyone, pleading with her again and again, but she had made up her mind. She said she was going to tell both families the truth. That's when Josier felt cornered. In that moment, he believed that the only way to protect his secret was to stop her from leaving the house alive. So just like he had already told the police earlier in a moment of rage and fear, he grabbed the pipe of the vacuum cleaner and strangled her. She died from suffocation. With that, his full confession was over. Later, the police also found CCTV footage that shows him buying petrol to burn her body. The case went to court, and based on his own confession for murdering Varka and for trying to hide the crime, Yazir was found guilty. The judge sentenced him to 21 years in prison without parole. The judge said, "One truth, if spoken early, could have saved 2 lives." Varga, full of love and dreams, never knew her marriage was built on silence. Yazir, torn between his identity and fear of rejection, chose a path that ended in tragedy, and as the case closed, it left behind one clear message. Hiding the truth may protect you for a while, but it can cost everything in the end. Share your thoughts on the comments and give a heart comment. Don't forget to turn on the notification button. Thank you.